Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're tearing into a fascinating and honestly pretty brilliant research methodology designed to evaluate the hypothetical 2026 decisions of Donald Trump. Now, look, we aren't here to rehash history or litigate the past, not at all. Instead, we're exploring the exact rigorous academic blueprint that top-tier analysts use to systematically dissect completely unpredictable political actions. It's basically a masterclass in separating the actual signal from all that endless political noise. This framework provides an objective toolset. Sure, it helps professionals forecast the political landscape, but here's the best part. It's a framework you can actually take and apply to how you consume the news every single day. So, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to kick things off with the 2026 research framework itself, move right into establishing strict timelines and facts, and then analyze those sharply divergent public reactions. After that, we'll weigh traditional media coverage against raw online sentiment and wrap it all up by measuring the actual long-term political impact. Sound good? Let's get right into it. Section 1, the 2026 Research Framework. What's really striking here is the specific wording of the research prompt itself. The overarching task explicitly demands that researchers analyze the unusual, the controversial, or the completely unexpected policy moves and public statements associated with Donald Trump in the year 2026. Notice, we're not talking about tracking standard day-to-day administrative paperwork here. In political science, this is what we call anomaly hunting. But why focus on the weird stuff? Well, because standard, boring governance, it rarely tests the stress limits of a political system. It's the anomalies, right? Those sudden, unexpected pivots and controversial statements, those are the true stress tests. They reveal the hidden mechanics of our institutions, just how deep public loyalty really goes, and the actual resilience of traditional norms. By forcing analysts to zoom in on these exact flashpoints, this framework zeroes in on the specific moments where massive political shifts are most likely to happen. You get a highly concentrated look at high-impact events, rather than getting bogged down in routine bureaucracy. But how do you analyze something so chaotic without bias? Well, that brings us to the next step. Section 2, Establishing Timelines and Facts. Okay, so the absolute bedrock of this framework is how it forces total objectivity before a single opinion is even allowed in the room. The first two mandatory steps: plot out a precise timeline of the decisions and provide a purely neutral, almost clinical explanation of what actually happened. Now, pause for a second and think about how incredibly difficult that actually is in today's hyper-polarized information climate. Seriously, think about the last major political breaking news story. How hard was it to find an article that just told you the facts without subtly, or let's be real, overtly, telling you exactly how you should feel about them? It's nearly impossible. And that is exactly the hurdle this step is designed to clear. Before an analyst can even ask why a decision happened or how different demographics reacted, the what and the when have to be rock solid, undeniable, stripped of absolutely every emotional or partisan adjective. This creates an unshakable factual foundation, ensuring the whole analysis is built on objective reality, not just somebody's preferred narrative. Section 3. Analyzing divergent public reactions. This part is brilliant. It perfectly captures the balanced, dual-lens approach this methodology demands. You have to equally and impartially evaluate exactly why supporters loved a move, right alongside exactly why critics absolutely hated it. In analytical circles, this is essentially an exercise in steel-manning, both sides. It's not enough for a researcher to just vaguely say, oh, critics were mad or supporters were thrilled. Nope. They're required to map out the exact logical arguments, the underlying values, and the specific motivations driving both ends of the spectrum. It completely removes the researcher's own personal bias. Think about it. Even if an analyst fiercely disagrees with a decision, they are professionally obligated to articulate the absolute best, most compelling argument for why a supporter would love it, and vice versa. By explicitly forcing this equal rigor, the framework guarantees a comprehensive, 360-degree view. It captures the true, messy complexity of the American political divide. But wait, the strangest part of how information flows comes later, when we look at where people are actually talking. Section 4, Media Coverage versus Online Sentiment. Understanding the massive contrast between what the traditional press reports and what the public is actually screaming about in unfiltered online spaces, that is absolutely crucial for modern analysis. Analysts have to compile a comparison of media coverage, track the raw public reaction online, and quantitatively figure out which specific decision actually captured the most attention. I mean, we live in an era of massive echo chambers and a totally fragmented media landscape. So what happens when a major cable news network completely ignores a big policy proposal, but that exact same proposal is trending #1 across every social platform for a solid week? It happens all the time. This framework ensures neither of those realities gets ignored. It demands that we measure the sheer volume of attention, the actual cultural footprint of a decision. Because sometimes, the most consequential political earthquakes aren't the ones getting neatly packaged for Sunday morning talk shows. They're the ones dominating chaotic, unfiltered online forums and driving raw, massive digital engagement. Section 5. Measuring long-term political impact. To cap off the analysis, the researcher has to assess both the political and economic effects of these 2026 decisions, alongside a really rigorous long-term impact prediction. This is the pivot. We're moving from analyzing the immediate shock value of a headline to demanding deep, strategic forecasting. It forces the abstract to become incredibly concrete. Let's say a sudden, highly unusual foreign policy shift is announced. Boom. It might generate an immediate, massive wave of applause from a specific base, a huge short-term political win, right? But this methodology hits the brakes and forces the analysts to look 5, maybe 10 years down the road. What are the economic ripple effects? Does that sudden pivot alter global supply chains? Does it spike inflation? Does it fundamentally reshape international alliances? The analyst has to separate that short-term political sugar rush of a controversial statement from the concrete economic and structural realities that will actually define history long after the initial news cycle is dead and buried. Ultimately, all of this meticulously gathered data, the neutral timelines, the steel-manned perspectives, the media comparisons, the economic projections, it all culminates in one definitive final ranking, ordering the 2026 decisions from the most unusual to the least unusual. And guys, the value of this ranked list cannot be overstated. We live in an information age that is absolutely plagued by breaking news fatigue. Every single day, a new headline pops up claiming to be the most unprecedented, shocking event in modern history. But here's the truth. When everything is treated like a historical anomaly, nothing actually is. This ranking system cuts straight through that noise like a knife by forcing the analysts to weigh and compare each distinct event against the others using cold, hard, neutral data. It creates a synthesized, highly structured hierarchy of what actually matters. Whether you're a policymaker, an academic, or just a voter trying to make sense of the world, having a prioritized list that objectively separates a generation-defining shift from a fleeting Twitter controversy is an incredibly powerful tool. So, as we wrap up our look at this remarkably structured methodology, the vital question remains: how accurately can we truly predict the long-term impact of today's complex political decisions? This framework hands analysts a highly effective, purely neutral tool set to cut through the endless static. But honestly, the ultimate takeaway here isn't just about what a politician might or might not do in the year 2026. It's fundamentally about us, the people consuming the information. The next time a massive, controversial political decision explodes across your feeds, what are you going to do? Will you just instantly react to the sensationalized headlines? Or will you borrow a page from this framework, find the neutral timeline first, steelman the opposing arguments, and separate that loud online noise from the actual long-term reality? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking the hard questions, always look at both sides, and keep analyzing the data. Catch you next time.